Hello and welcome. I'm Peggy, and today we have something different in the kitchen. Everybody wants to grow something. We put the snow and ice behind us, and I don't care if you live in a condo, an apartment, whatever, you can have the joy of something living and beautiful. And also, you might decide, well, I'm going to have a vegetable garden this year. And you can get your kids involved or your grandchildren. And we have an expert here because it isn't so simple. You've got to have the right soil to make everything the way God meant it to be. And we have somebody who really knows how to do this. In fact, for the first time, we have some worms here in our kitchen. Don't go away. This is interesting. Susie Vagani is here. Susie is a master gardener. She is part of the Master Gardeners of Greenville. And she, of course, took all the information in the classes with Clemson University. And she's brought some things to show us how we can have success.
Right, right. You know, the reduce, reuse, recycle starts in the kitchen. Well, I'm here to show you. I can't believe this.
I was so thrilled when you brought this. Now you've got, this is just a plain old
This is just a coffee plastic container.
And you put a plastic bag in it.
Right, just to make it easy to empty. Right. But you do need to have something like a charcoal filter to keep the odors down. Not that it's really smelly, because some people get squeamish about smells and things, but this really works well.
All right.
And this is about 1 week's worth. And you can see in
what
here.
What have you put in there?
Well,
celery,
vegetative things, anything that you're cutting up
grapes.
In the kitchen. But there are some things that you do not want to put.
But in other words, instead of putting this out in the garbage can or throwing it down the disposal, you can put it in a can like this with a tight lid, and it kind of disintegrates after a while.
It does. That's what I'm going to talk about, the 3 stages. And you can see the very first stage.
And you put eggshells in it. Tell me what you put in here.
Yes, well, you can put all of your kitchen scraps, your fruits, your vegetables, peelings, skins, anything that you would tend to throw away.
So potato peelings, carrot peelings.
Yes, all of that. Eggshells. What you don't want to put in here is any meat product, bones, meat, oils, butter, foods that have been cooked with meat or butter and that sort of thing, because that encourages critters to come into your pile. You don't want that. No. You don't want that. But here is what you have starting out. And you can see the first stage of this, and that's the bacterial breakdown. You might have gone to your refrigerator from time to time and had something squishy in the back. Has that ever happened to you?
Yeah.
Well, that's the bacteria. That's stage 1. Stage 2 are the other microbes that get in there. There's several different, and I don't want to get too technical.
All right.
But that's the second stage.
But this is your basic thing.
Yes.
If you want to enrich the soil, you don't have to go out and spend a lot of money. This stuff you'd throw away anyway.
Right. And let me tell you what it does, because here in this area where we live, we have that terribly hard compacted soil, the red clay.
Yeah.
What this does, once it's decomposed, is it aerates it, it provides nutrients, it helps the plants get to all the needed things that they need to have. Now, I will tell you, it does not take the place of fertilizer.
Okay.
Because some plants are very heavy feeders, but this is the beginning stage. It creates this wonderful, lush soil that is easy to get down into.
So now you wait until you get enough of this, and then you put
take it out
in the soil.
Well, you take it out to your composter is what you're going to do, and I'll talk about the composter
We're going to
next.
have that later.
But you have to think about green things, and this is what I would consider a green thing. Your nitrogen-fixing things, and your brown things, your carbon, which are leaves, straw, that sort of thing. And so think about making lasagna. You have a layer of your brown, a layer of your green, layer of your brown, and then you have to turn this because you need oxygen, and it should have some moisture. It should be about the consistency of a damp sponge.
But what you would do then is if you have, say you have a plot of like this table.
Right.
And you would loosen all the dirt.
And apply this to it.
And then you'd sprinkle this in it.
Right. It can serve as a mulch over the top. That helps hold moisture, keeps weeds out, but it really aids the soil to become a better surface for the plants.
So this is one way you can be a what is it? Conservationist?
Conservationist, yes.
And then you just put the lid on, and there
So
it is.
this is stage 1, and of course stage 2 takes place in the composter itself, all the microbes and several other
We're
things.
going to show you all that.
But I want to show you the final product, and
Hey,
this
what do
is
you want me to do with this? Just put it
you
over
can put
here?
that over there. But this is the thing that's really exciting, because here's the farmer's best friend, and I want to make sure that I keep him happy, she
And you
happy.
say the kids love this.
Oh, they do when I go out to the
Roper
Mountain Science
or
Center.
something?
Okay, you see how dark this is, and you can sniff this. What do you think that smells like, Peggy?
The earth.
It does. That is the way
The good
compost
earth.
should look and smell. It's not
See
smelly.
how dark brown it is?
Okay,
now
now
what's
let's wake
in
up
that?
the worms. They've all gone
Now, wait
to
a
the
minute.
bottom.
Susie, what's in that?
Well, all these kitchen scraps.
So you mean this is eventually what the kitchen scraps will look like?
So here's my friend,
look at
Mr.
the
Worms. He is the farmer's best friend. And what he does is he moves through the soil, which does what? Aerates it. He digests, he eats a lot of this stuff, and then he passes that through, and that contains tons of nitrogen. So you see there are some leaf pieces that you could still see that haven't yet decomposed, but the majority of this, and there's probably a lot more worms in this section here if you want to see some more. They tend to crowd up together.
Oh. And you told me that
See?
worms are blind?
Yes, they are.
They don't see?
They don't see, but they don't like the sunlight, and they're probably not very happy
Oh,
here,
they
and
won't
I'm
like
making a
these
mess on your
lights.
counter. They don't like the light. They like to stay at the bottom. They'll climb back in there. So this is what is added to your soil. So naturally, when you put this in your soil, you've added another helper.
So you start with this becomes that.
That's right.
And then after your ground is all loosened, you put this in it.
Right, right.
And then are you
And
ready
you can
to
continue
plant?
to add this all through the year. This takes about 2 to 3 months in the backyard in your composter. You can speed things up.
All right, do you have to have a composter?
Not
I mean,
necessarily.
Maybe, you
there
know,
are many
somebody's
ways
out
to
there,
do it.
You know, Susie, they're going to say, well, I can't get into all that. I
Oh,
just have a little space.
Listen, you can do something as simple as digging a hole in the ground, placing your garden waste in it, and let Mother Nature take over.
Okay.
It's as simple as that. There's the slow way. You can just stack it up and let Mother Nature take care of it that way. But I like the fast method, so that I can keep this going in my garden. So I'm always turning it. Every time I empty it, I turn it. So I make my lasagna layers, as I mentioned, and I'm always turning it. I do have to have a water source. It's very important that you have a water source so you can keep it moist.
So that was the other thing. You put water in it?
If it gets too dry, you have to kind of check it. It should be like the consistency of a sponge, and that's kind of where this is right now. And when you're putting your composter outdoors, it needs to be in a sunny spot away from the trees to keep the roots of the trees away. But you do need a water source to make sure that you keep this nice and moist for the worms.
All right, so now I'm trying to get this in my feeble mind. I am not a gardener. I love to look at beautiful gardens, but I'm not a gardener. And I have to think there are other people out there who are thinking, oh, this sounds so complicated. Oh. All right, so you start in your own
On a
kitchen.
little composter, and once a week, take it
So
outdoors.
the conservation people will love you.
Yes.
And that's one more thing that we don't have to put in the landfill
landfill,
and
that's
pay to
right.
have cleaned up.
That's
All
right, that's right.
So you start with that, and then you put water in this as well?
No, actually, it will decompose a little bit
Okay.
in the kitchen, which will become a little squishy.
All right.
So-
And then you put it where?
Then you put it in the composter outdoors.
All right. Now, if you don't have a composter, like
You
she's
can
going to
make,
show us in
there
a
are
minute.
many different kinds. The one I use is the one that
Yeah.
the city of Greenville promoted, but you can do the 3-bin system. You can do just a little area if you have a little hole
Okay.
that you want to stack things up. Just remember that the size of the particle, the density of the pile, all have a lot to do with how fast your compost is going to make. The thicker and deeper it is, the faster it's going to make, because the heat in the middle of that compost pile helps to break it down. So if it's a little tiny pile, it's not going to make very quickly, but it will eventually.
Okay. And then eventually it will look
like that.
And then when you go to plant a garden,
Right.
you mix this in with this good old red clay we have.
Yes, yes.
And
So-
you have a rich earth
Yes.
to grow something.
Absolutely. It's wonderful, wonderful medium. I just can't, fathom how people can garden without it. I mean, it's my lifeline. I have to have my compost bin.
Do you think most gardeners who are serious have some form of...
I am positive they do. At least most of the master gardeners that I know have them. And we have different kinds. There's the rotating kind. There's the 3-bin system. There's all sorts of things.
If someone out there is thinking, well, I'd like to try, they don't have to spend a lot of money and go and buy big fancy...
No, you don't. You can, if you have used wood, you can make like the old pallet method, put that together, and that's the assembly line method where you start here and you go there, keep turning it until the final product is finished. Or you can take a wire fence.
But you couldn't use like a metal can?
You could, but air is very important. So if it's metal, it's hard to punch holes in it. But a plastic barrel would be great.
A plastic barrel.
Yes.
But you could put a couple of little holes in it.
Up and down the sides and on the bottom, so, because you really want that earthworm to come in. And if it's covered at the bottom, he can't get in there.
So you drill a couple holes in the bottom and then start from there.
Right.
And put it in the sun.
Yes, that helps
in a
bring
sunny
that
area.
heat up. The heat.
You know, this is a learning experience for children.
They love it.
And you could have, with your own children or your grandchildren, you could have a real wonderful experience.
Yes,
and they'd be so thrilled.
They
because
do
this
love
is
it.
getting the garden ready.
You know, so many kids these days don't even know where our vegetables come from, and that's sad. So getting them out there in the garden to see what actually a turnip looks like, or a piece of collards.
Now, Susie, we're gonna move with everything into the other set during the break, and she's going to show us the composter and all of that. And is there anything else you wanted to add?
Well, I do want to add this, and this is on our website, the Clemson Extension website. It's number 1600. It's all about composting. It talks about all the different methods and all the information that you'll need. You know, there's a ratio of carbon to nitrogen, all of the technical stuff that you need to know. There's some pictures here that I think are absolutely wonderful. Here's the 3-bin and so forth.
You can call, we have a telephone number too, which is 864-232-4431. And that is the Clemson Extension office here in the upstate in Greenville.
Right.
And if you want more information about joining classes, becoming a master gardener, or if you want this pamphlet on, you know, just call them, because they are there to help and they're wonderful. But this is, I think this is very exciting, because it's something creative you can do. It's fun. And you can do it with your family.
Yes.
And you could, if you only have 2 or 3 containers, you can do that. Or maybe you have a whole field. And people are starting to grow their own food. And you'll save money, and it can be an adventure.
It is. It is. It's a lot of fun.
And they have a huge plant sale coming up.
Yes,
and I'll tell you that before we take a break. It is on May the 3rd, and it's at the University Center, which is the old McAllister Square. And that is a Saturday from 8 to 2. And they have fabulous plants for sale. Some of them $1, some of them $5. They're bargains, and they're beautiful.
Absolutely.
And our master gardeners will be presenting this on May the 3rd. So if you're interested, put it on your calendar. We're going to go to a break and come right back.